Okay, this is our second lesson on quadratic functions. Lesson 1, we introduced the idea of solving a quadratic equation using factorising, and we were doing common factors there. So let's have a look at the other two types of factorising. So solve these equations by factorising. A squared minus 9 equals 0. Now it is possible in some situations to do a simple solution to that by just adding 9 to both sides. And we would get back, what we did in the last lesson was we solved problem just like that. A squared equals 9. Square root of both sides means that A is the square root of 9. As long as you remember that that's positive or negative 3, you could quite quickly solve that if that was possible. So it's still in the bag as a solution, but I'm going to show you a different way which sometimes you might need to if it's not as straightforward as that. So A squared minus 9, these are two squared terms. A squared is a square term, 9 is a square number, and there's a minus sign in between. So we use the technique of factorising using a difference of two squares. So the square root of A squared is A, and that goes first. The square root of 9 is 3, and because the square root of 9 is actually positive 3 or negative 3, we have to put a minus or a plus sign, 1 in each. And that's our difference of two squares. Same rule applies as we did last time, in that one number multiplied by another, if you know the answer is 0, we know that one of these has to be 0. That's the basis of our next step of logic, which will be, we'll write either the first number, a plus 3, equals 0, or the second number, a minus 3, is equal to 0. And if we solve these quickly, something add 3 is 0, so that has to be negative 3. And something take away 3 is 0, that's got to be 3. There's our solutions. So we get the same answers as if we just did it numerically. We got positive or negative 3, and we could just write it quickly like that. But there are some times that particularly if there's other algebraic terms, that we can't just use the numeric method and we have to use a difference of two squares. So you try that with this one here. Pause the video if you want a chance to work through it yourself, because I'm about to do it. Okay, so difference of two squares in this case is going to be square root of t squared is t, and square root of 49 is 7, and remember we're doing plus and we're doing minus there. So we can say either t plus 7 equals 0, first number, or second number, t minus 7 equals 0. And if we solve these, you get pretty good at doing these quite quickly. T equals plus 7 or t equals negative 7, and we can wrap these up in a wee sentence. Solutions, because they're the same value, positive or negative, we could quickly just write that as positive or negative 7. Good. What about these ones here? So we're ramping up the difficulty a little bit by suggesting we've got numbers. Can we do difference of two squares here? Well, remember that sometimes we've got two steps of factorising. Always look for a common factor first. So in this case, the 3 is a common factor of both 3x squared minus and 48. So we can factorise it like that. 3 times x squared minus 16 equals 0. Do you notice we've got a difference of two squares tucked in there? So we can factorise it with a pair of brackets. The square root of x squared is x. Square root of 16 is 4. 1 is positive, 1 is negative, doesn't matter which is which. So now we've got 3 terms multiplying, 3 numbers multiplying equals 0. One of them's got to be 0, except the 3, because the 3 is never going to be 0. So we can still say that either of the options to be 0 are 0. X plus 4, that could be 0, or x minus 4 could be 0, but 3 could never be 0. Solve them. X equals negative 4 and x equals positive 4. So again, we've got same values, different signs. So our solutions are x equals positive or negative 4. You do the same. Pause the video if you want to do it yourself, because I'm about to go over it. So we can say that either here x minus 2 equals 0, that could be 0, or x plus 2 could be 0 because the product of all of these numbers is 0. Solve them. X equals 2 or x equals negative 2. So our solutions are x equals positive or negative 2. Okay, so that's our difference of two squares. Finally, the last type of factorising is when you've got a trinomial expression. You get three terms, and there's no common factor, there's no difference of two squares, so we've got to use our other method of factorising. And there are various ways to work that out. Some of them are mental ways and some of them are writing things out way. When it comes to a trinomial expression where it's just a 1x squared term, the easiest way is just to do a mental, maybe writing a wee bit down to help you. So remember to start with the letter. There's got to be a letter at the beginning of each that multiplies to x squared, and it's got to be x and x. So that's a good start by writing that down. What we're looking for though, for our number terms, we're looking for factors of negative 6. If you want to write that down, that's fine. That add to this number in front of the x term here, which is positive 1. Okay, factors of 6 that add to 1, well, it has to be 1 and 6 or 2 and 3 are our factors of 6. But because it's negative 6, we've got to put a negative sign in front of one of each of those pairs to make the answer plus 1. That's going to be negative 2 and positive 3. They add to positive 1. So that means that one of the numbers is negative 2 and one of the numbers is positive 3. And that's us done our trinomial factorising. You could do all of that in your head, or you might have a system which is writing out more. It's really up to you. So now we've got two numbers that multiply together to give you 0. So either, same rule, x minus 2 equals 0, or x plus 3 equals 0. Get that out of the way. Which means that we can finish that off by saying x, add 2 to both sides, we get x equals 2, or we get x equals negative 3. So our solutions are x equals negative 3, that's the lower number, and x equals 2, that's in numerical order. You don't have to do it that way, but I just like the order of it. Okay, the reason why I write it out again at the end instead of just leaving them hanging is that sometimes you have to do a bit more work to get one answer than the other, and they sometimes aren't always close to each other, so it's good form just to bring your answers together so that it's easy to find. You try the green one, x squared minus 2x minus 8 equals 0. Pause the video if you want to go over it yourself, because I'm about to quickly show you the solution. Okay, so pair of brackets, because we know it's a trinomial factor. It's easier because there's only a 1 here. So we're looking for x and x in the front, and we've got factors of negative 8. Okay, factors of negative 8 that add to negative 2. So 8 is going to be 1 and 8, or 2 and 4. Because it's negative, we've got to put a minus sign in front of one of them, and the answer's got to be negative 2. So that's likely to be negative 4 and positive 2, and there's my answer. Positive 2, take away 4 is negative 2, so I've got plus 2 here and minus 4, and there's my factorised expression, which means that if those two multiplied equal 0, we can say either x plus 2 equals 0 or x minus 4 equals 0. So we've got x equals negative 2, x equals positive 4, so we can say that our solutions are x equals negative 2 and x equals positive 4. Okay, so that is us done the other two types of factorising. There's a bit more to trinomial factorising, and a bit so I've made it into a third part to this whole solving equations bit. So you go on, once you practice a bit of that, go on and try and look at the other part of the solving equations using trinomial factorising. Okay, hope that's been helpful.